Prologue. Tavi plays a game of Ludus with Varg, the Cane, in a prison-like suite in the Grey Tower. The game is tense as Tavi attempts to outmaneuver Varg, who reveals the importance of discipline and timing in battle. Varg hints that their ongoing game is more than just practice. It's a study of each other's tactics for the war that will come. After a failed strategy, Tavi is interrupted by a messenger from the Citadel. The messenger, revealed to be Gaius Sextus in disguise, informs Tavi that his reports have caught Gaius's attention and that it's time to act against the ambitious High Lords. Gaius sends Tavi on a mission to the Vale to study with Maestro Magnus, offering Tavi the chance to refine his skills while keeping him positioned for future events. Meanwhile, a spy, Rook, delivers crucial information to Calare, setting the stage for a civil war and revealing her inner turmoil. In Chapter 1, Tavi and Maestro Magnus work together to test a Romanic war engine, a reconstruction of ancient technology designed without the use of furycraft. The engine successfully launches a stone, but shortly afterward they are attacked by 3 skilled assassins. Tavi, using his sling, helps neutralize one of the attackers while Max, a former Academy friend, eliminates the others. Magnus reveals that the attackers may have been sent to track Max. After the skirmish, Max informs Tavi that he's been assigned to a new legion by Gaius, serving as an officer in a new unit designed for espionage. Tavi, unsure about his new role and the unfamiliar military life, prepares to leave with Max and Magnus for the southern tip of the Empire. The chapter sets up Tavi's new mission and the complexities of his relationships, including his concerns about leaving Kitai behind. In Chapter 2, Amara arrives at Bernard's fortress town, Garrison, to find it significantly developed since her last visit, with new stone buildings and an open market. She is surprised to see Marat merchants, especially the Wolf tribe, in the area, a sign of the changing relations between Alerans and Marat. Upon meeting Bernard, her secret husband, their reunion is passionate and full of desire, but the moment is interrupted when a fury storm, accompanied by deadly windmains, threatens the town. Bernard and his knights heiress use salt-tipped arrows to fend off the windmains, and the storm is eventually quelled. Afterward, Bernard and Amara discuss Isana's unresolved anger toward the First Lord, related to the loss of her sister, Alea, during the First Battle of Calderon. The chapter ends with Amara fearing that the fury storm was not natural, hinting at possible threats to the realm. In Chapter 3, Tavi struggles through a training session with Max and Maestro Magnus, suffering a broken wrist from Max's blow. Despite the injury, Max insists on continuing the training, teaching Tavi Legion tactics and the importance of discipline. Max explains that legionaries fight as a cohesive unit, not as individuals, and that the techniques they're practicing are designed for battlefield conditions, not duels. Tavi, frustrated by the pain and the clumsy techniques, begins to understand the value of working as part of a team. After the training, Magnus heals Tavi's wrist using watercrafting, and Tavi reflects on the intense lessons he's been learning. As the night sets in, Magnus and Tavi discuss the upcoming challenges, and Tavi admits a foreboding sense that something bad is about to happen. Magnus reassures him, but the chapter ends with Tavi facing the reality of joining the legions, uncertain but determined. In Chapter 4, Tavi arrives at the First Aleran Legion's training camp, where he faces the reality of his new role as a sub-tribune. He is frustrated by the strict regulations, including his unexpected grooming, enforced by Max. The camp, a large and bustling site, houses hundreds of recruits and veterans, some of whom show little respect for their officers. When 2 slovenly sentries mock Tavi, Max intervenes violently, putting them in their place. Tavi is struck by Max's handling of the situation and the disparity between the veterans' behavior and their skills. Inside the captain's tent, Captain Cyril introduces himself and emphasizes his no-nonsense approach to the Legion, announcing his intent to train the Legion into a formidable force. Tavi also meets Lady Antilles, who will serve as the Legion's healer. Afterward, Tavi senses that Max is troubled by something related to Lady Antilles and his family, but Max refuses to share, leaving Tavi frustrated. In Chapter 5, Isana wakes up to chaos as the Legion prepares for battle. The Marat are attacking the valley, and Isana feels the fear, excitement, and resignation surrounding the soldiers. Araris Valerian, the personal armsman to the princeps, comes to find her and assures her that her sister, Alea, is safe. Isana learns that the Marat have breached the outpost, and she is instructed to retreat toward Riva. As the attack begins, Arrows fly, and Isana witnesses Araris effortlessly take down the Marat warriors. Isana then experiences a vivid dream of her past, reflecting on her guilt and longing for her family. Upon waking, she travels with Lady Aquitaine, who is working to abolish slavery through the Dianic League. Isana questions the motives behind the League's actions, suspecting that it's more about weakening Kalari's economy than genuine freedom. Despite her reservations, Isana agrees to support the cause. In Chapter 6, Tavi struggles with the harsh reality of Legion life, feeling disillusioned by the work and the system. He faces a reprimand from Tribune Gracchus for his handling of flour measurements, which were found to be incorrect due to the use of faulty cups. Tavi calmly explains the situation and discovers that the Tribune was embezzling flour, though the captain, Cyril, prefers to overlook the issue to avoid damaging Gracchus's career. Tavi is then called to the practice field, where he learns about the Legion's shortage of knights and their struggles with the Knights Pisces. Captain Cyril tests Tavi's loyalty, asking if he can swear his allegiance to the Legion, to which Tavi agrees. As Tavi prepares to leave, a group of recruits rushes past with Max, who is badly injured. Tavi is shocked to see his friend lifeless, bloodied, and unresponsive. In Chapter 7, Amara attends a lecture at the Collegia Tactica in Ceres, where her husband, Bernard, presents a report on the Vord, a deadly threat to Alera. Senator Arnos questions Bernard's account, casting doubt on the credibility of the Marat's warning, but Bernard defends the Marat leader, Doroga, and asserts the danger posed by the Vord. Tensions rise as Bernard challenges Arnos' skepticism, resulting in a heated exchange. After the lecture, Bernard and Amara share a private moment, where Amara reveals that she is pregnant, a joyous surprise for Bernard. Their affection is interrupted when Amara senses two men following them, not part of their escort. Using a light-bending fury, she confirms the men are unfamiliar, and both Amara and Bernard grow suspicious, sensing danger. The chapter ends with a sense of unease as Bernard and Amara prepare for whatever comes next. In Chapter 8, Tavi rushes to the infirmary after Max is critically injured during a training accident. Max's injuries are severe, with significant blood loss, but the healer, Foss, manages to stabilize him, though his prognosis remains uncertain. Captain Cyril handles the situation with calm authority, ordering the recruits to remain in the camp while the investigation into Max's injury unfolds. The recruit responsible, Schultz, claims it was an accident, but Cyril hints at deeper suspicions, warning him to stay put. Lady Antyllus and her son Crassus arrive to check on Max, but Cyril firmly asserts his control over the situation, dismissing her attempts to take charge. Tavi realizes Cyril may have orchestrated the scene to manipulate Lady Antyllus' perception, ensuring her involvement in Max's care would be limited. As Tavi contemplates the situation, Cyril reassures him, vowing to protect Max and maintain the Legion's honor at all costs. In Chapter 9, Tavi remains by Max's side while he recovers from a severe injury caused by a training accident. Max regains consciousness, and after a brief conversation, it's revealed that he's had similar injuries in the past, all attributed to his stepmother, Lady Antyllus. Tavi begins to understand the depth of Max's fear and anger toward her, realizing that Max believes she will eventually kill him. Meanwhile, Tavi receives orders from Maestro Magnus to investigate a potential spy network, including looking into a farrier and a veteran squad. Tavi also interacts with Lady Antyllus and her son Crassus, who pushes patience with their manipulation. He uses a clever trick to deceive Lady Antyllus, masking his furycrafting abilities. Despite their strained interactions, Tavi vows to protect Max, pledging to watch his back and figuring out how to confront the dangerous Lady Antyllus, whose eyes are now focused on him. In Chapter 10, Isana speaks at a Dianic League gathering, becoming the first female stedholder in Aleran history. She delivers a powerful speech on the abolition of slavery, drawing from her own traumatic experiences as a former slave. While Lady Aquitaine supports the proposal, Isana remains aware of the political game at play. After the speech, Isana encounters Lady Placida, who offers her sincere support and assistance, offering a refreshing contrast to Lady Aquitaine's manipulative behavior. This conversation helps Isana realize the weight of her situation and her growing fear of Lady Aquitaine's power. Isana feels trapped under her patron's influence, but the kindness of Lady Placida provides her with a glimmer of hope. She reflects on her fear, letting her emotions flow, and finds some relief realizing the future is not as bleak as she had thought. In Chapter 11, Tavi endures a filthy and humiliating job inspecting latrines and ensuring they meet specific measurements, much to his discomfort. His friend Max teases him about his situation and the nickname Scipio Latrinus the legionaries have given him. Despite this, Tavi continues with his work, keeping his focus on his duty and avoiding distractions. Max also discusses his troubled family background, revealing painful memories of his childhood. Later, Tavi seeks refuge at Mistress Simnia's pavilion, where he receives a bath in exchange for information. Simnia offers Tavi intelligence, but demands something in return, wanting to know who he is working for. Tavi cannot share this, but offers her a retainer for future information. Afterward, Tavi encounters Katai disguised as a blind woman who has been secretly gathering intelligence. She reveals she has learned much about the Partian merchant's factor, and urges Tavi to focus on uncovering the full network of information. In Chapter 12, Isana enjoys a dinner at Varello's Pool, a stunning restaurant built around a crystal-clear pool in a rocky grotto. She meets her brother Bernard, his wife Amara, and the centurion Giraldi. They talk about the political situation, including Bernard's efforts to convince the Senate about the threat of the Vord, which is met with resistance. Amara reveals the Rhodesian senator's surprising support for emancipation, which causes her anxiety. As they discuss, a strange sight occurs. The stars in the sky turn red, causing confusion and fear among the guests. Isana, overwhelmed by the emotions of the crowd, struggles to maintain her composure. As she is carried out of the restaurant by Bernard, they witness a violent attack. Several assassins, disguised as staff members, kill a high-profile guest and prepare to strike again. The chapter ends with the danger closing in as the assassins attack. In Chapter 13, Isana, Bernard, Amara, and Giraldi are dining at Varello's Pool when a violent assassination attempt occurs. Several men in white tunics, disguised as staff, attack them. Amara, using her windcrafting fury Cirrus, defends her family, but Bernard is injured. Despite their efforts, the assassins continue to press their attack. The situation grows dire when a group of assassins surrounds them, and Bernard, using his earthcrafting, summons a stone hound named Brutus to fight back. However, the attackers are relentless, and Bernard is severely wounded. Just as the group faces certain defeat, Fade, a skilled warrior previously thought to be elsewhere, appears and kills many of the attackers with brutal precision. Despite the chaos, Fade urges Amara to take Isana and escape. On the streets outside, the attack intensifies, and Amara pursues one of the remaining assassins, discovering the masked rook who begs to be killed. In Chapter 14, Amara, Bernard, and Giraldi meet with High Lord Sirius in his private garden, seeking refuge and strategizing amid the chaos of the city. Sirius is concerned about the attack on Ceres, while Amara shares urgent information about the assassins known as Immortals, highly trained, pain-resistant slaves sent by Lord Calaris. The conversation turns to Calaris' forces, who have already mobilized against Ceres and are marching toward the city. Despite Sirius' vulnerable position, Amara and others rally around him to defend the city. However, Calaris' power is evident as he interrupts the meeting with a threatening display of his furycrafting, sending an unsettling message to the assembled leaders. He demands Sirius' surrender, threatening to destroy his family if he resists. Several leaders, like Placidus, express reluctance to fight for the First Lord, as they prioritize their family's safety. Amara wrestles with the gravity of their choices, feeling the weight of the situation and the difficult decisions ahead. In Chapter 15, Amara and Gaius discuss Calaris' betrayal and the potential consequences of his actions. Gaius reveals that Calaris' plan may succeed if Lords Atticus and Placidus do not intervene, and admits to making miscalculations regarding Calaris' resources. Amara, frustrated by the treasonous acts of Calaris and his allies, is reluctantly forced to work with Lady Aquitaine despite her mistrust. Gaius explains that while Aquitaine is ambitious, her assistance is necessary to stop Calaris and rescue the hostages. The chapter highlights the urgency of their mission and the political tensions at play. Amara is tasked with rescuing the hostages and disrupting Calaris' plans. Gaius also mentions the mysterious disruption in the stars, which may be linked to Calaris' alliance with the Canim. Amara prepares for her mission, with Bernard insisting on accompanying her despite her protests. They plan to visit the dungeons to gather information from someone with knowledge of Calaris' operation. In Chapter 16, Amara, Bernard, and Lady Aquitaine interrogate Rook, a high-ranking bloodcrow who attempted to assassinate Steadholder Isana. Amara is determined to extract information from her about Calaris's plans. Despite Rook's reluctance and the torture she has endured, Amara uses a mix of persuasion and threats to get her to talk. After Rook reveals that Calaris is holding her daughter Masha as leverage, Amara offers her a deal. Help them rescue the hostages and her daughter, and she will be spared. Lady Aquitaine provides insight into Calaris's manipulation, suggesting that Rook's loyalty to him stems from the threat to her child. Amara convinces Rook to cooperate by swearing on her honor to protect Masha, which ultimately breaks Rook's resolve. She agrees to help, and the group prepares to depart immediately to rescue the hostages. In Chapter 17, Tavi is abruptly awoken by Max in the middle of the night and instructed to follow him to the captain's tent. Upon arrival, they find the senior officers gathered, including Gracchus and Lady Antyllus. The atmosphere is tense, and the officers are concerned about the strange color of the stars. Captain Cyril enters, and the mood shifts as he questions Gracchus about the status of armor and weaponry inspections. Gracchus stumbles, and Cyril harshly reprimands him for failing to complete the task, ordering it to be finished by dawn. Cyril then reveals that they are at war and have orders to proceed west to secure a bridge over the Tiber River. Despite concerns about the stars, Cyril remains focused on the mission, dismissing them as irrelevant. The officers are given their orders, and the Legion prepares to march at dawn. In Chapter 18, the stars burn red over Westmiston, causing unease among the townspeople. Aaron, aware of the potential threat from the Canim, begins to feel the weight of the strange celestial event. A ship, the Slive, arrives at the harbor, captained by Deimos, who demands his payment from Ullus. When Ullus refuses, Aaron offers to guide Deimos to the hidden money in exchange for passage off the island. As they head to the ship, the crew takes women and children, implying they are part of a slaving operation. Upon boarding, Aaron realizes the Canim fleet is approaching, a massive armada unlike anything seen before. Deimos reveals that he was hired by Calaris to deliver a message to the Canim. Realizing the scale of the war and the betrayal, Aaron offers Deimos triple his pay to return to Alera in time to warn the legions. Deimos agrees, and they set sail amidst growing chaos. In Chapter 19, Isana reflects on her deep love for Septimus as he proposes to her under the harvest moon, offering her a beautifully crafted ring. Despite her initial concerns about his father's disapproval and her status as a non-citizen, Septimus is determined, pledging to change the realm for the better. Overcome with emotion, Isana agrees to marry him. However, she soon awakens from what seems like a dream to find herself in a strange bed. Bernard, her brother, is there, informing her that war is approaching and Calaris is marching on Ceres. Fade is present, seemingly out of place in Ceres, but has been assigned to watch over Isana. He explains that Tavi is safe, hidden in the First Aleran Legion, far from the civil war. As they speak, Fade experiences a seizure, collapsing on the floor, leaving Isana frantic as she tries to assist him but struggles to find a pulse. In Chapter 20, Isana desperately tries to help Fade after he collapses, using her watercrafting to sense his condition, but the effort causes her physical distress. Giraldi rushes in to assist, and a young healer is summoned. The healer, Sarius Feliaveratus, quickly assesses Fade's condition and identifies Garrick oil poisoning from a wound caused by an arrow. Despite healing efforts, the poisoning is fatal and causes fever, disorientation, and pain. The healer informs Isana that Fade will not recover without extraordinary efforts, but it would be dangerous for her to attempt it. Isana, undeterred, insists on trying and requests a healing tub. Veratus agrees to help her in the morning, but warns that if Isana dies attempting to heal Fade, his sacrifice would be in vain. Isana is determined to save him, refusing to stand by while he dies. Veratus leaves with a final understanding, and Isana prepares for the dangerous healing process. In Chapter 21, Tavi, struggling with his broken leg, convinces his friend Max to break his leg further to avoid suspicion while traveling with the First Aleran. Max reluctantly agrees, and Tavi endures the painful process. Afterward, they encounter Valier Marcus, who briefly questions the incident but lets them off with minimal scrutiny. At the medical wagon, Tavi's leg is healed by Foss, but the healing process is interrupted by an attack on the Legion, leaving 2 Knights Errant severely wounded. The captain and Lady Antyllus manage the situation, with Tavi observing the severity of the injuries caused by an unknown assailant. Lady Antyllus inspects Tavi's leg and pushes him to test it, suspecting him of avoiding work. Tavi uses the opportunity to take advantage of her coin purse, offering Foss a large tip for a more comfortable ride in the wagon. Foss agrees, and Tavi prepares for the journey ahead. In Chapter 22, Amara, Bernard, Rook, and Lady Aquitaine prepare to leave the Citadel, flying with the Knight's Heiress and traveling in a coach. As they ascend into the sky, Amara and Lady Aquitaine detect an ominous presence and soon face an aerial attack from Kalari's knights. Amara engages the attackers, swiftly neutralizing one, but is struck by a blow that disorients her. The remaining knight shoots an arrow at her, but before he can deliver the fatal blow, strange cloud beasts, vicious, scarlet vine-like creatures intervene, killing the knight. Amara, disoriented and unable to call on her fury, falls uncontrollably. As she plummets, Cirrus's windcrafting slows her fall, but Amara crashes into a field. Lady Aquitaine lands nearby, and Bernard rushes to her side. Though injured, Amara is relieved to find no broken bones. The group is left confused by the mysterious attack, with Lady Aquitaine unsure of the source. In Chapter 23, Isana wakes to find Lady Veratis tending to Fade, who is still suffering from the Garrick infection. After a brief exchange, Isana begins the difficult process of healing Fade's wound using her watercrafting abilities. The infection, however, is severe, requiring Isana to spread it throughout his body to allow his natural defenses to fight it off. This method is risky, as it could lead to deadly consequences if she mismanages it. Isana grapples with the pain and pressure of the task, while the sounds of war escalate outside. Giraldi informs her that Kalari's forces are attacking the city, and the situation grows increasingly dire. Despite the overwhelming difficulty, Isana resolves to continue, determined to save Fade, even at the risk of her own life. She focuses on the healing process, hoping to hold on as long as necessary, while the world outside deteriorates into chaos. In Chapter 24, Amara and Lady Aquitaine's journey to Calara is slow and taxing, requiring frequent breaks for the Knight's Heiress. During their travel, they begin planning the rescue of hostages. Amara realizes they've flown too high, triggering an attack by strange creatures in the red haze. She leads the coach in a dangerous dive to avoid them. As they rest in the forest, Bernard and Amara share a quiet, intimate moment over a meal, discussing their plans and the challenges they face. Amara expresses her concerns about their allies, particularly Rook and Lady Aquitaine, both of whom have their own agendas. Bernard voices his frustration with Lady Aquitaine's power and ambition, while Amara reflects on her own windcrafting abilities compared to Lady Aquitaine's. As the chapter ends, Bernard subtly hints at a future with Amara, but she remains focused on the dangerous task ahead. In Chapter 25, Tavi and Max are traveling with the supply wagon, reflecting on their journey and the challenges they face. Tavi reveals he used Lady Aquitaine's purse to bribe Foss and Valier Marcus, which earns Max's admiration. Tavi senses something off about the purse, discovering a strange red gem inside, which he decides to keep. As they travel, they discuss the ongoing war and the dangers facing Alera. Tavi reflects on his growing sense of responsibility, realizing he's no longer the child needing protection, but the one providing it. Later, they are approached by Kitai, who reveals that a messenger was turned away by the guards and that the message was critical. Kitai hints that the messenger was Aleran, and Tavi realizes that the guards on duty, who are likely Calarans, are conspiring to intercept the message. Tavi and Max prepare to act before it's too late. In Chapter 26, Tavi and Max, along with Kitai, rush to the docks to find Aleran, who is suspected of being pursued by dangerous individuals. They navigate the streets and make their way through Elenark, passing through the eastern and western gates. They arrive at the warehouses and find a body, but it's not Aleran. They continue their search and confront a group of legionaries, including Nonus, who are engaged in suspicious activities. Tavi aggressively interrogates them, discovering that they were pursuing a thief. Tavi then orders them to return to their posts while he investigates a shed where he finds Aleran, who is under arrest. Tavi's team is attacked by one of the legionaries, but Kitai intervenes and kills him before he can harm Tavi. Tavi secures a Calaran knife from the dead attacker and plans to bring Aleran and the captured legionaries to Captain Cyril for further action. In Chapter 27, Isana continues to work tirelessly to heal Fade, battling exhaustion and the infection that is consuming him. Veratis, the healer, informs her that Fade is weakening and may not survive unless he rallies soon. Isana is deeply immersed in the crafting to combat the infection when Fade's mental image appears, revealing his guilt over past failures, particularly his inability to protect Septimus. He struggles with the idea of surviving while others have died, but Isana reassures him that he did all he could. Meanwhile, outside, the battle between Calera's forces and Sirius's knights intensifies, with Calera's tactics pushing the city to its breaking point. Captain Miles visits to express his regret over not being there for Fade sooner. He, too, fears for his brother's life. Despite the overwhelming situation, Isana refuses to give up on Fade. She presses on with her healing efforts even as the sounds of battle grow louder. In Chapter 28, Captain Cyril and his officers discuss the grave situation involving the Canim, whose massive battle pack is approaching Alera. Aleran, having narrowly escaped their pursuit, insists the Canim are not a simple raid but a serious threat. Cyril acknowledges the timing of the attack coincides with Calaris' siege of Ceres, leading to suspicions that the Canim are working with Calaris to stretch Aleran forces thin. Tavi suggests that the Canim may have been tipped off about the storm that disrupted communication, hinting at a coordinated plan. As tensions rise, Cyril orders his forces to prepare for an imminent battle, despite the town's unprepared defenses. The Legion must fight to protect the region's holders. Tavi is tasked with spreading the word and ensuring readiness for battle, while also investigating potential internal threats from Calaris' agents within the Legion. The chapter ends with preparations for an impending confrontation. In Chapter 29, Tavi visits Mistress Simnia's pavilion to warn the camp followers about the looming Canim threat, instructing them to be ready to retreat into the city if needed. He then encounters Crassus, who confronts Tavi over a purse, but reveals his intentions were to protect his mother from causing more trouble. After a tense confrontation, Tavi and Crassus come to an understanding. Just as they leave, a massive lightning strike devastates the captain's command tent, killing many officers. Max informs Tavi that the strike likely hit the officers' meeting directly. With the captain and most officers incapacitated, Max declares that Tavi is now in command of the First Aleran. Tavi is thrust into leadership amid the chaos, with the fate of the Legion hanging in the balance as the storm and Canim forces close in. In Chapter 30, Tavi begins taking charge after the devastation caused by the lightning strike on Captain Cyril's command tent. Foss informs Tavi that Cyril is alive but gravely injured. Max reports that the auxiliaries are ready for action, though 2 horses and Lady Antilles are missing, raising suspicions. Tavi assigns Max as Tribune Auxiliaris and orders him to lead the cavalry against the Canim. Tavi then confronts Centurion Erasmus and assigns him to work with Aleran to investigate the treasonous behavior within their ranks. Later, Tavi and Magnus discuss the need for preparations, with Tavi promoting Foss to Tribune Medica. Tavi decides to confront Crassus, suspecting him of loyalty issues but ultimately seeing the young knight's true motives. As Tavi gears up for battle, Magnus advises him to maintain a professional appearance and consider appointing bodyguards, hinting at the dangerous road ahead. In Chapter 31, Tavi leads an alley of cavalry toward Founderport, near the Tiber, where they spot signs of the Canim's raiding parties. As the sun rises, Tavi and Max observe the destruction, with hundreds of Steadholts burned and Canim raiding packs scattering across the valley. They decide to strike, splitting the cavalry into 2 groups and charge at the raiding Canim. The battle is swift, with Aleran cavalry overwhelming the Canim, but Tavi is shaken by the ferocity of the enemy. After the fight, Tavi helps refugees and orders them to retreat to Elenark. With few resources, he commands the cavalry to keep moving and help those in need. Tavi, overwhelmed by the weight of leadership, remains focused on immediate threats. He instructs Max to monitor the limits of their forces and expresses his resolve to honor the fallen soldiers, despite his own doubts about his leadership. In Chapter 32, Tavi and Max continue to engage with the Canim raiders, having encountered several packs throughout the day. The constant battles leave the cavalry exhausted, with several casualties. As they discuss the strange nature of the raiders' disorganized movements, they realize the Canim are trying to distract them. Tavi reflects on the erratic behavior of the enemy forces and deduces that the Canim's main force remains hidden. A veteran legionnaire, Hagar, reports the capture of Canim weapons, revealing the presence of elite scouts, which further confirms Tavi's suspicions that the enemy is organizing more strategically behind the scenes. Tavi and Max continue to strategize their next steps, with Tavi deciding to fall back while leaving scouts behind to watch for enemy movement. Tavi later follows Kitai into the night, discovering that the Canim fleet is burning behind Founderport, signaling that the Canim plan to stay and conquer, not just raid. In Chapter 33, Tavi and Kitai witness the burning Canim fleet, signaling a major shift in the enemy's strategy. They're not just raiding, but planning to stay. Tavi reflects on the scale of the invasion and the desperate nature of the Canim's attack. As they prepare to move forward, Kitai reveals that Lady Antilles has been camped nearby. Tavi and Kitai track her to a remote location where they overhear her conversation with a water sculpture, learning that she is in collusion with the Canim and plans to help them stay in Alera. Tavi observes Lady Antilles destroying a life-sized image of himself in fury, confirming her dangerous power. After their narrow escape, Tavi and Kitai realize that the Canim are coming closer, and Tavi is left feeling small and powerless. However, he soon forms a plan to stop the Canim. The key to victory lies in discipline. In Chapter 34, Isana, exhausted from the prolonged siege, is confronted by Giraldi, who informs her that Fade is dying. Despite her desperate efforts to save him, the situation is dire. Giraldi urges her to leave, but Isana refuses, determined to stay by Fade's side. As she watches him struggle, she is faced with the painful reality that his condition is beyond healing. Giraldi, seeing her resolve, threatens to physically drag her away, but Isana's defiance strengthens. She reveals to him that Fade is not just a simple servant, but Araris Valerian, a significant figure, explaining her unwillingness to leave him. Giraldi, realizing the truth, agrees to help her. Isana, filled with new determination, requests tea and Fade's sword, recognizing a way to reach him and potentially save him. In Chapter 35, Tavi returns to the Elenarch after a long, exhausting journey. Upon arrival, he finds the town under siege, with the First Spear and his men scrambling to manage limited resources. Tavi takes command, insisting on securing food supplies and fortifying the bridge instead of focusing on the southern walls. The First Spear challenges Tavi's decisions, questioning his experience and leadership. Tavi responds by revealing his knowledge of the Canim and their strategy, explaining that the Canim's warrior caste is fractured and vulnerable. Tavi proposes a strategy to exploit these weaknesses, aiming to break the Canim's leadership and force them to retreat. He also orders the demolition of the Elenarch if necessary to prevent the Canim from taking it. Tavi gains the First Spear's support and appoints Mistress Simnia as the new Tribune Logistica to help organize the Legion. The chapter ends with Tavi rallying his men for the upcoming battle. In Chapter 36, Tavi and Aleran reunite, discussing the state of the Legion as they prepare for the Canim assault. Tavi orders Aleran to release the prisoners, recognizing their value to the Legion, and learns from the First Spear that the Canim are advancing quickly. Tavi, despite his exhaustion, prepares the defenses, focusing on the southern wall and the bridge. He gives the order for the standard to be raised and stands confidently on the battlements, rallying his men with a defiant cry. As the Canim forces approach, Tavi sees their vast numbers, estimating around 20,000 regulars and twice as many raiders. Despite the overwhelming odds, Tavi remains resolute in his decision to stay and lead the Legion. He faces the fear of battle, accepting the possibility of death, and steels himself for the fight ahead. His confidence reassures the Legion as they prepare for the imminent clash. In Chapter 37, Tavi commands the defense of the Elenarch as the Canim assault begins. The legionaries prepare for the enemy's approach using coordinated tactics with archers and shields. The Canim charge quickly, hurling heavy javelins and bringing a large wooden ram to the gates. Despite some injuries, the Alerans retaliate with hot pitch, slowing the enemy's advance. Tavi, working with the Knights Pisces, uses furycraft to launch fiery attacks on the ram, causing the Canim to momentarily retreat. Tavi senses their hesitation and recognizes that their leader Sari may be setting up a dramatic display of power to regain control. Tavi decides to undermine Sari's authority by riding out alone, intending to make him look weak and distract his forces. Though fearful, Tavi moves forward, betting that his knowledge of the Canim will give him an edge. He rides into the open, ready to face the Canim head-on. In Chapter 38, Tavi confronts Sari, the leader of the Canim, in an attempt to break his command. Riding alone into the heart of the enemy's ranks, Tavi taunts Sari, daring him to come forth. Sari eventually emerges, and the two exchange harsh words, with Tavi mocking Sari's leadership and warning him of Alera's impending retribution. Sari, unwilling to appear weak in front of his warriors, engages in a tense standoff with Tavi, but ultimately agrees to a truce. As Tavi prepares to leave, Sari recognizes him and reveals that he knows Tavi from their previous encounters. In a sudden, desperate move, Sari unleashes a devastating bolt of scarlet lightning aimed at Tavi, who is unable to escape in time. The The chapter ends with Tavi screaming in terror as the lightning strikes, leaving his fate uncertain. In chapter 39, Tavi, after surviving a devastating strike from Sari's lightning, finds himself alive but disoriented. As he regains his senses, he charges toward Sari, taunting him into a confrontation. He manages to strike Sari with the Legion standard, knocking him down before fending off 2 acolytes. Realizing that the enemy is closing in, Tavi makes a hasty retreat toward the town, but his horse is injured. Struggling, Tavi finds himself trapped in the river, nearly drowning. However, he manages to free himself, retrieve the Legion's standard, and face the approaching Canim warriors. Unexpectedly, Tavi is saved by 2 water-sculpted lions that fend off the Canim, allowing Tavi to retreat. As he returns to the town, he realizes the stone he stole from Lady Antilles has protected him from the ritualist magic. With the Canim closing in again, Tavi rides back to the fortifications, where the Legion cheers his return. In chapter 40, Tavi recovers from the deafening blow and gets back to the battle, donning his armor with Foss's help. Despite being weakened, he directs the defense against the Canim, who are sending raiders to wear down the Aleran forces. As the battle intensifies, Tavi observes the Canim's tactics and prepares for their next move. The gates are a key point of defense, and Tavi decides to hold them as long as possible. With fresh troops arriving, he orchestrates a tactical withdrawal for the first spear to rest and preserve strength for the coming fight. Tavi continues coordinating the defense, keeping the pressure on the Canim even as the raiders manage to breach parts of the wall. After repelling a charge, the Canim regulars, their most dangerous force, begin to advance. Tavi prepares for the next phase of the fight, knowing the real challenge is yet to come. In chapter 41, Tavi prepares for the imminent assault from the Canim regulars. As he coordinates his troops, he's forced to act swiftly, ordering a retreat to mislead the enemy and setting up a trap. The Canim's battlemaster, Nasog, makes a surprising move, calling out for Tavi, and they meet in a tense standoff. Nasog offers Tavi an alternative, allowing the Canim to recover their fallen and retreat in exchange for a temporary ceasefire. Tavi refuses, steadfast in his duty to protect the bridge, and the two engage in a high-stakes game of ludus. Tavi successfully lures Nasog into a trap, but Nasog senses the ploy and recognizes the danger. As they part ways, Tavi learns that Nasog respects him but is determined to destroy the Alerans. Tavi heads back to the city as the final battle looms, rallying the troops to prepare for the assault. In chapter 42, Amara, Lady Aquitaine, and their associates prepare for a covert mission. Amara is given a revealing costume, including a scarlet silk shift, sandals, and a slaver's discipline collar. She hesitates at the collar, aware of its dark implications, but agrees to wear it for the mission's success. Tensions rise as Amara contemplates the dangers of this role, with Bernard offering his protective instincts and Amara warning him about trusting Aldrich. Rook, a former assassin, helps Amara with her transformation into a pleasure slave for the mission, teaching her how to walk seductively to blend in. The two share a quiet moment of mutual understanding regarding the dark past they carry. Amara expresses her concerns about the plan's success, but Rook assures her it will work. As the preparations conclude, Amara steps into her role, ready for the dangerous mission ahead. In chapter 43, Amara and her group, disguised as slaves, infiltrate the citadel of Calare. Rook leads the way, guiding them past guards, and up the tower to find a record of where Amara's prisoners are held. The city is in disarray, filled with misery and extreme inequality. As they approach the citadel, they encounter Calaris' immortals, elite soldiers with collars that enforce obedience. After a brief confrontation with Centurion Orus, they gain entry. Inside, they are interrupted by Count Aragus, whom Rook kills in self-defense, causing tension between her and Aldrich. They continue searching for the prisoners, finding a clue about them being held in an aviary at the top of the tower. However, as they move closer, they realize Calaris has returned to the citadel and the alarm bells ring, signaling danger for the group. The chapter ends with the threat of imminent discovery. In chapter 44, Amara and her group move quickly through the citadel, planning to free the prisoners, including Lady Placida. As they approach the top of the tower, Amara is forced to keep her composure in their slave disguises, though she is uneasy about the situation. Rook and Amara reach Lady Placida, who is chained and trapped by powerful gargoyles that could activate if any furycrafting occurs. Amara plans to free Lady Placida, neutralize the gargoyles, and escape before Calaris arrives. Lady Placida agrees to help, but only if Amara ensures the child isn't harmed. Meanwhile, Bernard, Aldrich, and the others are handling an escalating confrontation with guards. Amara formulates a risky plan and asks for Rook and Lady Placida's trust to carry it out. The tension builds as they prepare for a quick and dangerous escape, all while Calaris's forces close in on them. In Chapter 45, Tavi prepares for the Canim assault on the gate. As the battle intensifies, the Aleran forces light fury lamps to illuminate the attacking Canim, but the enemy's decoy ram and a well-placed second ram breach the gates. Tavi leads the retreat to the bridge, where they use fire to slow the Canim. The intense flames kill many of the attackers, but the sheer numbers of Canim overwhelm the Alerans. Tavi coordinates the defense with knights, heiress, and veterans, but the rain begins to drown out the fire and visibility. As the Canim charge, Nasog, the Cain battlemaster, breaks through the defenses with terrifying speed and strength, killing several legionaries. The battle turns into a chaotic, brutal struggle as Nasog's forces press forward. Tavi is trapped on the wall with no clear escape, and he faces a dangerous choice as the Canim close in on him. In Chapter 46, Tavi fights for survival as the Canim press their assault. Cornered, Tavi charges at Nasog, using his own momentum to knock the larger Cain off balance. Despite his initial success, the battle turns grim as Nasog fights back and reinforcements arrive. Knights heiress intervene, lifting Tavi out of danger, but the fight rages on. Over the next few hours, Aleran forces suffer devastating losses, with hundreds of legionaries dying in the chaos. The Canim continue their relentless assault, and Tavi orders his men to hold the bridge at all costs. After a brief respite, Tavi devises a risky plan to collapse the bridge using earthcrafting. He plans to rely on dancers skilled in earthcrafting and volunteers to hold the Canim off while the demolition takes place. Tavi resolves to lead the charge, understanding the sacrifice involved, but finding new hope in the potential success of his plan. In Chapter 47, Isana uses furycrafting while in a near-sleep state to try and reach Fade, who is near death. As Isana drifts into a dream, she relives a painful memory from 20 years ago, witnessing the night her younger self, Araris, and Aaliyah fled from the Marat. In the dream, Isana sees Aaliyah injured by an arrow, and despite their best efforts to keep her alive, Aaliyah dies from the wound, leaving Isana stricken with guilt. Fade, appearing alongside Isana in the dream, expresses deep remorse for his failures, particularly his role in abandoning Septimus and Isana during critical moments. Isana, however, reassures him that the tragedy was not his fault. She reveals that the cause of Tavi's stunted abilities lies with her. She intentionally hindered his growth to protect him, which led to the war. Despite Fade's desire to fade away, Isana encourages him to return to his duty. In Chapter 48, Amara is tasked with escorting Masha, Rook's daughter, out of a dangerous situation. As Amara prepares to flee, Lady Placida and Rook face off against attacking gargoyles, while Amara and Masha are under constant threat. With the gargoyles attacking, Amara uses her windcrafting to avoid them, and they escape through a hole in the tower's wall. On the roof, Amara finds the girl they were sent to rescue, Elania, and attempts to help her while the chaos intensifies. As the gargoyles continue to attack, Amara and the others prepare to flee, but Calaris's forces are closing in. Bernard helps clear the way with his expert archery, but they are still pursued by knights heiress. As the numbers of Calaris's forces grow, Amara realizes the situation is dire and that they may not be able to escape. In Chapter 49, Amara assesses their situation as they are pursued by Calaris and his knights heiress. She realizes the knights' recent travel might leave them fatigued, offering a chance to escape by outpacing them. Amara signals the coach bearers to accelerate, while Lady Aquitaine and Lady Placida help disrupt the pursuit. Despite Amara's efforts, Calaris's knights heiress steadily close the gap. Amara uses her windcrafting and sword to slow down the pursuing knights, causing several to crash into trees. However, she faces the reality that more experienced knights are closing in on her. Amara tries to outmaneuver them, but is caught in a tight formation designed for endurance. Realizing the desperate nature of the chase, she decides to take a risky course of action, flying into the violent storm clouds, hoping to find a way to outsmart her pursuers and save the coach, and Bernard. In Chapter 50, Amara and her group narrowly escape from Calaris and his knights heiress. Amara, in a desperate attempt to slow down the pursuit, uses her windcraft to disrupt the knights and forces a dangerous maneuver. Calaris, determined to capture them, leads a counterattack, but Amara manages to strike down his knights with the help of her allies. The pursuit continues, and Amara's arm is injured during the battle. Calaris himself is eventually taken down by Bernard's salt arrow, which disrupts Calaris' windstream. The group retreats to a forest, and Amara reports to Gaius via a water image, assuring him that the rescuees are safe. Lady Aquitaine threatens Amara, but Amara counters with a clever switch of identities to outsmart her. Eventually, Amara and Bernard discuss their moral stance on justice and the law, vowing to uphold the law despite the challenges. The group rests, preparing to continue their journey. In Chapter 51, Tavi prepares for a critical push against the Canim forces on the Elenarch Bridge. Despite the cold, rain, and fatigue, the Aleran forces rally. Tavi and Valier Marcus discuss strategy and the ongoing situation, where Marcus, despite his injury, continues to fight. Tavi plans to strike at noon, believing the Canim forces are waiting for Sari to claim glory. 3 cohorts volunteer to spearhead the attack, and Tavi gives them his orders. Tavi receives a brief rest before the battle, and the legionaries prepare for the push. He observes the changes in the legion's armor, now marked with crow and shark symbols signifying their resolve. Tavi is joined by Aaron and Kitai, who refuse to stay behind. As the battle intensifies, Tavi leads the charge to push the Canim back, determined to destroy the bridge and ensure their victory. The chapter ends with Tavi and his troops poised for battle. In Chapter 52, Tavi leads his forces up the Elenarch Bridge, where they encounter bloodstains, marking the Canim's previous assault. The battle intensifies as Tavi, Max, Crassus, and the battle crows push forward. The legionaries fight fiercely to hold the bridge, while Tavi plans to discredit the Canim's ritualist leader, Sari. As the Canim retreat, Tavi and his men advance, facing Sari and his ritualists. Tavi relies on Crassus's bloodstone to protect him from Sari's lightning. As Sari prepares for another devastating strike, Tavi charges and kills him with a swift blow to the throat, ending the battle. The Aleran forces, emboldened by Sari's death, charge the remaining Canim forces, and the battle for the Elenarch concludes with the Canim in retreat. In Chapter 53, after the Canim ritualists are defeated, Tavi and his men process the aftermath. Max is relieved that Tavi survived another lightning strike thanks to a bloodstone. Tavi gives orders for the wounded to be taken to healers and for a cavalry unit to follow the Canim's retreat. He reflects on the battle's cost, including the death of Sari and his feelings of guilt and regret. Kitai comforts him, pointing out the necessity of their actions despite the bloodshed. As they follow the Canim's retreat, they encounter a female Cain with young, something previously unseen by Alerans. Tavi, moved by the sight, allows her to escape, realizing the Canim brought their families with them. This discovery makes Tavi realize that Nasog's motivation may be driven by a greater threat, and he is now fearful of what forced Nasog to leave his homeland. Epilogue: Tavi navigates the aftermath of battle, experiencing complex emotions about the casualties, particularly his connection to Araris, who survived and revealed his long-hidden love for Isana. Meanwhile, Amara recovers from physical and emotional turmoil, receiving updates from Bernard about the retreat of Calaris' forces and the unexpected appearance of a massive Canim army. Tavi, now fully immersed in leadership, continues to strategize with Kitai by his side, discussing the potential use of Marat forces for swift scouting against Nasog's forces. Tavi also experiences a revelation about his own furycrafting ability when he unknowingly manipulates a fury lamp, signaling the onset of his powers. Kitai, sensing his newfound ability, teases him, and their connection deepens as they share an intimate moment. The chapter concludes with Tavi embracing his powers and his growing relationship with Kitai as they prepare for the challenges ahead.